What happens if the police mistake you for a suspect? That's exactly what we'll discuss today. Let's get started.
Imagine you're driving home from work, you stop at a gas station, you buy a drink, you get back in your car. A few minutes later, flashing lights appear behind you. You pull over. The officer approaches quickly, hand near their holster. Step out of the vehicle. You ask why. The officer says you match the description of a robbery suspect. Your heart starts racing. You've never robbed anyone. You've never even been arrested. But at that moment, none of that matters. The police think you might be the person they're looking for. So what happens next? What rights do you have? Can police detain you? Can they arrest you? What should you do? And what mistakes could make the situation much worse? Today we're breaking down exactly what happens if police mistake you for a suspect under United States law. First, police are allowed to investigate people who match a suspect description. Many people believe police need absolute proof before stopping someone. That's not true. Under the Fourth Amendment, police can temporarily detain someone if they have reasonable suspicion that the person may be involved in criminal activity. This standard is lower than probable cause, which is required for an arrest. For example, you match the suspect's clothing. You match the suspect's physical description. You're found near the crime scene. A witness points you out. Your vehicle resembles one connected to the crime. In those situations, officers may stop you to investigate. That does not mean you're guilty. It means they want to determine whether you're the person they're looking for. The biggest mistake people make. The biggest mistake is resisting. Many innocent people think they're wrong, so they don't have to cooperate. That's dangerous. If officers tell you to stop, stay where you are. If they tell you to place your hands where they can see them, do it. If they tell you to step out of a vehicle, comply. Arguing on the street rarely fixes mistaken identity. The place to challenge police actions is later through legal processes, not during a tense encounter. Remember, police do not know you're innocent. At that moment, they're trying to determine whether you are the suspect. Sudden movements, running away, or physical resistance can escalate the situation dramatically. Can police handcuff you even if you're innocent? Yes, this surprises many people. If officers reasonably believe a situation may be dangerous, they can temporarily handcuff someone during an investigation. Being handcuffed does not automatically mean you're under arrest. In many cases, it's considered a temporary safety measure while officers verify identity or investigate circumstances. So if you're handcuffed, don't assume you've been formally arrested. The officers may simply be trying to determine whether they have the right person. What should you say? Keep it simple. A smart response might be, "Officer, I believe you've mistaken me for someone else." Then remain calm. Provide identification if legally required. Avoid giving long explanations. Avoid trying to prove your innocence through emotional arguments. Many people start talking non-stop because they're nervous. Ironically, that often creates more confusion. The safest approach is usually be respectful, identify yourself when required, state that you believe there is a mistake, do not physically resist. Can you refuse questions? In many situations, yes, the Fifth Amendment protects against self-incrimination. You generally have the right to remain silent. A simple statement such as, "I would like to remain silent and speak with an attorney," is often the safest choice if questioning becomes serious. However, laws vary by state regarding identification requirements during lawful stops. Some states require individuals who are lawfully detained to identify themselves. The key point, being cooperative does not mean answering every question. How mistaken identity happens. Many people assume police only arrest the wrong person because of incompetence. Reality is more complicated. Mistaken identity can happen because of similar appearance, similar name. You may share a name with someone who has a warrant. Outdated databases. Government databases sometimes contain inaccurate or outdated information. Witness mistakes. Eyewitnesses can be wrong. Research has repeatedly shown that eyewitness identification is not always reliable. Identity theft. Someone may have used your personal information during a previous arrest. Incomplete information. Police often make decisions quickly using limited information available at the time. What if police actually arrest you? Sometimes officers conclude that you're the suspect. You may be arrested. Even innocent people can be arrested if officers reasonably believe they have probable cause. At that point, you'll likely be searched. What if there is a warrant for someone else? This is one of the most common mistaken identity situations. Imagine police have a warrant for John Smith. You are also named John Smith. An officer runs your information and sees the warrant. Mistakes can happen if officers fail to verify date of birth. Mistakes can happen if officers fail to verify physical characteristics. Mistakes can happen if officers fail to verify identification numbers. Mistakes can happen if officers fail to verify other distinguishing details. Eventually, the mistake may be corrected. But unfortunately, correction sometimes happens only after detention or arrest. Can police be wrong and still act legally? Yes. This is something many people misunderstand. The Constitution generally focuses on whether officers acted reasonably based on the information available at the time. A mistaken arrest does not automatically mean officers violated the law. Courts have recognized that reasonable mistakes can occur during police work. The critical question often becomes, was the mistake reasonable? If officers ignored obvious evidence that you were not the suspect, legal problems for the government become more likely. If the mistake was reasonable under the circumstances, courts may find the officers acted lawfully despite being wrong. What happens after police realize the mistake? Once police determine you're not the suspect, you should generally be released. However, the consequences may not end there. A mistaken arrest can create missed work. A mistaken arrest can create financial losses. A mistaken arrest can create emotional stress. A mistaken arrest can create public embarrassment. A mistaken arrest can create background check issues. In some cases, arrest records may continue appearing unless steps are taken to correct or clear them. This is why people who experience a wrongful arrest often consult an attorney afterward. Can you sue? Possibly, but many people assume lawsuits are automatic. They are not. Winning a lawsuit against law enforcement can be difficult. You generally must show more than simply police were wrong. Factors courts may examine include whether probable cause existed. Factors courts may examine include whether officers acted reasonably. Factors courts may examine include whether constitutional rights were violated. Factors courts may examine include whether the agency followed proper procedures. Some lawsuits involve false arrest. Some lawsuits involve false imprisonment. Some lawsuits involve civil rights violations. Some lawsuits involve excessive force claims. Legal protections such as qualified immunity can make these cases challenging. Real-life consequences can be serious. Being mistaken for a suspect is not just an inconvenience. People have spent hours in custody. People have lost jobs. People have missed flights. People have suffered reputational damage. People have experienced emotional trauma. In highly publicized cases, individuals have even been publicly identified as suspects before police corrected the error. That's why remaining calm and protecting your rights is so important. What you should do if this happens to you: stay calm. Do not resist. Keep your hands visible. Identify yourself when required. State the truth. Say, "I believe you've mistaken me for someone else." Avoid long explanations. Do not try to argue your entire case roadside. Request a lawyer if questioning becomes serious. Protect your legal rights. Remember everything: names, badge numbers, times, locations, save documents. Keep paperwork, citations, booking records, and release documents. Speak with an attorney if necessary, especially if you were arrested or detained for an extended period. Being mistaken for a suspect is one of the most frightening situations an innocent person can face. One moment you're living your normal life. The next moment you're surrounded by police officers who think you committed a crime. The reality is that mistakes happen. Witnesses make errors. Databases contain bad information. Descriptions are sometimes vague. Officers often make decisions under pressure. If it ever happens to you, remember the most important rule. Your goal is not to win an argument on the street. Your goal is to get through the encounter safely. Protect your rights and allow the facts to establish the truth. Stay calm, stay respectful. Do not resist. And if necessary, let a lawyer fight the battle later. Because when police mistake you for a suspect, your behavior during those first few minutes can make all the difference.
That's all for this video. For more information, watch these videos.